Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahabashai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and I want to say Shalom to Yakim out there pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson, a little bit late, all right, on this one. I got a little distracted by a couple of videos that I was watching. I was watching this clip here from Tucker Carlson titled "Ethical Hacker Exposes the Satanic Cult Targeting Children." It's pretty interesting clip, and that's just a part of the clip. I guess the full video. Here's another one. That's by Sean Ryan. There's another one. The full video though is it's somewhere here. But anyway, there's a full video. Here it is. You can go and watch more here, or like there's a whole video. Here it is, full conversation. This is the full video, and I guess it's on a different page. Tucker Carlson and Ryan Montgomery. That's the name of this guy here. They call him an ethical hacker. And I've actually seen this guy's videos before outside of Tucker Carlson because I'm interested in technology on computers a lot, and I like computers and stuff and whatnot. So this guy happens to come up on like Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and all sorts of stuff, right? But he touches on a lot of decent stuff, and this guy will give you, he's like kind of like a whistleblower at the end of the day, because he gives away a lot of different information about just different shit that most people don't know about. Like right now, I guess he's talking about the scary reality of facial recognition. You can see down here on the bottom. There's a bunch of information. There's a hacking convention that comes to Vegas, and it's called, is it just DEF CON? I think it's just called DEF CON. Vegas Hacking Convention, DEF CON, all right? And I guess it's going to be held in August 6th or 9th in 2026. It's always one of those things I've always wanted to go to because it just seems interesting. I'm not like that into computers. You know, these guys are like fucking technical geniuses at the end of the day, and they're like they're engineers, all right? Most of these people are engineers, and they know how to you know, quote unquote reverse engineer things and you know, ins and outs of security protocols and how to bypass them and do a bunch of shit. I don't know any of that. I don't know, as far as hacking stuff goes, I don't know anything on any of that. I just know how to, like, you know, the basics. Like it sounds hard, but like how to build a computer, it's easy. It's just Legos and you know, software troubleshooting and stuff like that with like operating system software, like troubleshooting that stuff, like if there's an issue going on with the computer on that end, right? But as far as what these guys do, that might as well just be like fucking rocket science to me. I have no idea what they do, but I've always been interested in going in and just going in here and like walking around and like seeing what these people are doing, and like, I don't know, like, guess they have all these different like I said, I don't really know what they do. It's just one of those things where you know, you kind of want to peep through the window, right? Even though if it's not you know, anything that you're necessarily gonna do, or you know, it's kind of interesting to look in and kind of see, you know, watch these guys work, I guess, as you will. But he was talking about how at DEF CON, you know, that's here. There's a lot of issues that happen in Vegas when they come here, because while a lot of these people are ethical hackers, along with them you have people that are unethical hackers. And they'll set up a bunch of shit. And he's the one that originally rambled on talking about how you should never leave your Bluetooth open, right? Because there's insane amount of tools that these individuals can use to hack your stuff. I still leave my Bluetooth on most of the time anyway. I ain't got nothing important that they could get. I mean, they could, right? They could get bank account information and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, we got Yahweh Shemiao Shai protecting us, unlike these other individuals. That's not saying you could never be completely hit, because the Lord might just have something like that happen to be a hell to you, all right? And a test or a trial, all right? Some tribulation that hits you. But on a regular day in the life, all right, of an Israelite, we're protected from those things. So anyway, I'm rambling on. This is not even what the video is about. But if you're interested in that type of thing, this video, the ethical hacker, and that's what he goes by. But again, his name is Ryan Montgomery. Says the ethical hacker exposes satanic child predators lurking online and how he hunts them. And I guess it goes back to that group, some set of numbers. I can't remember what it was. Um, and I guess these guys that are basically preying on children and not necessarily just for CSEM, which is for an abbreviation of child sex exploitation materials. It's what they call child P to the O to the R to the N now. And they do get involved with those types of things, but it's much more sinister than even that. A lot of it's making these trying to lure and persuade these individuals to either kill themselves, kill others, significantly harm themselves or animals or others. And I guess they have pretty big links to quite a few satanic groups, and I'd be curious to know who those satanic groups have, because it's all a big web, all right, and they all go back to someone. Okay, they all go back to someone, and I think we all know who those someones are. It's not just one individual, but it's someones. It's the same thing with Epstein. It wasn't just him. All right, he was just one pawn in the pack of the board game that is the elite's control system, and he's just one that was basically a fall guy. And this guy's still alive. All right, Epstein's still alive somewhere, and, doing what he does, just under the radar. I mean, they had his Epic account, right? Epic is a video game platform that's primarily known for its game Fortnite. All right, you brothers out there that have kids, sisters as well, and you probably heard that term go on. Well, they own it's owned by Fortnite is owned by a site called Epic. Well, Epstein had an Epic account, all right, to play Fortnite, and during his imprisonment, it went offline. Well, uh, about last year sometime or earlier this year, it just pops back online. All right, and it's and how do you know that that's his account? Well, because his account was directly mentioned in the Stein files, right? So there's a lot of information, and we already know these billionaires and millionaires, they have these bunkers, all right, that they retreat into, and some of these individuals could be potentially just getting ready or adapting to the lifestyle because they know shit's gonna pop off soon, and you kind of want to wade in the water, so to speak. When you get into a pool, you don't just jump in. Some people do, but usually, you put your foot in, test the water, so you can get used to it bit by bit. Some people just jump in and go full force. Arguably, that's kind of the better way to go, but that's what these individuals do, and they basically start off. They stay there every once in a while. They go there. They might spend a couple days to get adapted to the lifestyle, but eventually these people are just going to start living there entirely. And I thoroughly believe that some of these individuals, people like Epstein, are just hiding away in either another island that we have no idea about, that's blurred out from all the maps and aerial spaces, all right, space maps. Or he could potentially, or he, not just he, but they, all these individuals, all right, that have been taken out of the limelight. Some of these people said are dead. Some of these people disappeared. So, so on and so forth. Are more than likely just dwelling in underground bunkers, and it sounds crazy. It sounds bugged out, but again, at the end of the day, you got to have a closed, open mind, as I like to say. The world like to say open mind to take new concepts into your mind, but that's you don't want to take everything. You have to have a closed open mind. You have to stay firm in what you believe in, but you have to be also able to use that information that you already have to say, okay, is this probable, is this not probable? And knowing the way that this system works and these elites work, it's 100% probable. Not only is it 100% probable, it's for sure happening to some degree, right? But anyway, if you want a little interesting rabbit hole to go down, this video is probably good. And again, Tucker Carlson, I'm subscribed to his other page. I just subscribed to it today because I saw this. I said, he's got some interesting stuff. He's got a lot of bugged out shit too. But again, he has like economist warnings and baked dynasties, Rothschild. Ooh, that could probably be really good. I don't even know. Hopefully that's a full video too. But he's also got stuff on like Nephilim and all kind of some crazy stuff, and how they're hybrids, priest on demons possessing the ruling elite. So this guy's probably fucking nuts. Probably could still watch it and get some interesting information, but there's a lot of bugged out stuff. This guy does a lot of bugged out shit at the end of the day. Um, this guy, ex Freemason, shares a terrifying encounter with the devil. Well, I mean, this guy's more than likely an Edomite, and then Tucker Carlson's more than likely an Edomite. So, I mean, they're both encountering the devil as they speak, because the devil is Esau Edom. The devil is not a supernatural entity as they make it seem. That's the spiritual demon Satan. That a lot of people confuse the devil with the spiritual demon Satan. They like to confuse Lucifer with the spiritual demon Satan as well. When Lucifer is actually also referring to the devil, and the devil is a man, okay, and that man is Esau, Edom. All right, the so-called white man. Not every so-called white man is an Edomite, just like not every so-called black person is an Israelite. I always make sure to iterate that whenever I say that. But despite that, those guys, you can just just like the same way with false prophets, you shall know them by their fruits. Well, you shall know these guys by their fruits as well. You can easily tell an Edomite after a couple moments. Um, and even then, sometimes it's hard to tell, even with Jake. But anyway, certain these videos, and I encounter with the devil, well, you just two and two sitting together, but Satan is the spiritual demon. Satan can also be referred to sometimes in biblical scripture about um like Esau, the devil, all right, Lucifer, but a lot of the time it's talking about the spiritual demon Satan. Again, you got to know your context clues or cues, however you want to say it. But anyway, those are some videos to watch later. All right, that I gotta watch. This one's interesting too. The demonic plan crafted for the New World Order, ex Freemason explains, and that's with this guy. All right, this guy's apparently an ex Freemason, and to what level? Who knows? This guy's probably not a 33-degree Mason at the end of the day. Um, so it's like the same thing with these people that are saying, "Oh, I'm a Satanist," and it's not about that. Well, like I said, I mentioned him in a previous lesson. I used to be borderline Satanist. I used to be involved with that type of stuff. I used to try to do all that stuff, Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley's Book of Lies and all these different things, and Enochian magic, not to a full extent, but learning into the Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, stuff like that. You know, all these different things, right? And he talks about this. I used to be very interested in that stuff, and like I said, I used to do lower level stuff, and that's how I know when these people are talking about something if they're full of shit or not, because they're like, "Oh, I was a high satanic priest." No, you weren't. You don't exude that type of presence. All right, there's a certain presence, and you don't have it. All right, it's you're full of shit. And there's a lot of people that are full of shit. And I said it back then, and I still say it now. I said it back then when I was involved in the satanic shit and satanic witchcraft. Not necessarily. I was in a weird mix of theistic slash LaVey Satanism, which sounds like if you know anything about Satanism, which sounds like a hypocrisy in itself, and it kind of is. But LaVey Satanism is more about a philosophy, and theistic Satanism is more about as they would say, the spiritualism side of Satanism, about actual spiritual. It's like Enochian magic. All right, they would say the guy, was it Davis, something Davis? He talks about him in here. Enochian magic. I was actually just looking it up again and seeing what these things were. Because again, back then I knew some about. I heard about it, but I was like, what are the Enochian keys anyway? So I was looking into that. That's what that is. It's a lot of weird bugged out, like it's weird. It's weird far out. But John Dee, all right, John Dee and Edward Kelly, and it was like the 1500s. Let's say 1600s, but 16th century. But yep, Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley, all these different things. And I was just researching more of that. After this, I was looking in more into about John Dee and not necessarily him, but the Enochian keys, the 44 Enochian keys. There's just like a lot of weird shit. It's all just bugged out madness, and really it just reads as a series of they call them calls, but a series of fucking witchcraft oriented poetry. That's all it is. And not very good poetry at the end of the day. And there is still, wicked, evil, satanic energy on that bullshit. Because again, it's against Yahweh Shema Shai. But anyway, I'm rambling now. But anyway, let's get into the lesson, because anyway, this guy's talking about this, and he said anyway. But the 33rd degree that's these individuals. What I was gonna say, and then I'll move on, is these individuals that are calling themselves high satanic priests and all these different types of things. It's the same. Are these people are the same as these people that are calling themselves Masons? All right, you really don't know the depth behind it. All right. Oh, I'm a Mason. Well, you're not a 33rd degree Mason. What which fraternity were you from? Were you from Skull and Bones? Which what secret order or secret society were you from? You're not from one. All right. You're just some guy. I mean, I could go down and join a Mason's lodge tomorrow. All right, more than likely. All right, watch. How easy? How easy is it to become a free Mason? I think you can just walk into a lodge and just start it. Go. Um, it says to join a mainstream lodge, you must be a man 18 years of age, believe in a supreme being, atheists are not admitted, possess a good moral character with no significant criminal record, be joining of your own free will. So the path. Introduction. Visit a lodge, attend a public dinner, or contact the secretary directly. You can be invited to socialize, some members get to know you. Once ready, you'll fill out an application and pay a petition fee. Investigation committee will meet you and do a background and character check. The ballot lodge members will vote on your application. It must be unanimous or near unanimous decision. If accepted, you will go through 3 initiation ceremonies and entered apprentice, fellow craft, and mastered mason, learning basic philosophical principles along the way. So, I mean, all in all, I could go and, start tomorrow. All right, essentially, I could go and, I'm sure the Vegas has a local lodge. I can go and look up Las Vegas Freemason Lodge. I could go there. I could, attend a dinner, however it is, contact the secretary, and, well, depending on how deep they investigate me, maybe not me, all right, but someone out there, all right, that's not involved in this truth, right? Because if they do a deep enough check on me, they're gonna find these lessons, and then I'd be ruined, right? But anyway, not that I'd ever even join that shit anyway. But saying if I wanted to, I could literally go down there and join it. It's not a big fucking process at the end. I mean, it is a process, but it's not. It's not like I'm trying to get into fucking Fort Knox here, right? I'm not trying to get into Fort Bragg. It's not. I don't have to. I'm not. This isn't a Ocean's 11, all right, type situation. You can just go and do it. And a lot of these people, oh, I'm a Freemason. Well, okay, that's fine. I could be a Freemason too, right? I could just go and do that. That doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. And a lot of these, and it's the same people that are Masons that'll also be, oh, well, no, the Masonry isn't really about that. Well, that's because you're not a 33rd degree Mason, all right? You're not I mean a real 33 degree Mason. I'm talking skull and bones. There was another, secret, what do they call them? Secret societies like Skull and Bones. There was another group, Scroll and Key. There you go. Quill and Dagger, the Cadaver Society. You're not involved in any of those, right? The Illuminati, all right, the Bohemian Club. Is that the one with the Bohemian Grove? Yeah. You're not involved in the Bohemian Grove. You're not a part of the Illuminati or the 33 degree Masons. All right. You're not a part of Quill and Dagger, Scroll and Key, Cadaver Society, Book and Snake, Wolf's Head. All right. You're not a part of those. You're not part of Skull and Bones. You're not part of those groups. You're not a real Mason. Okay. You're not. And it's the same thing with these people that are satanic. And I mean, it's the same thing. I could go right now to show you. You could probably join online. Watch. I don't even want that in my history, but watch. If I go to File, New Private Window, say Church of Satan, right? Go here. Here's the official Church of Satan. I bet I could join it right now, right? Let's see, affiliation. Join the Church of Satan. Boom. How do I go about it? I just send them $225, and then what do I get? A legal name, complete mailing address, a copy of my national state issued ID, plus the following statement. It says, please enroll me as a registered member of the Church of Satan. I recognize the failure to practice the principles of the Church of Satan and engaging in legal activity may result in the termination. Yada, yada, yada. Church of Satan, New York, contact Poughkeepsie, New York. Or download a PDF file containing the registration statement. All these different types of things, right? To pay via PayPal, $225. That's it. And then after that, and is there any process after that? Let's see. Satanism not for everybody. Yada 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 yada. Let's see. You may also be completed for application for active membership with a statement. That, and then that's it. And then what? No local branches. High volume of mail received. Which means a lot of people are involved in this. About the membership fee. We must emphasize that if you don't have to join our organization to consider yourself a Satanist. You only need to recognize yourself in the Satanic Bible, which of course I also read bits and pieces of back in the day. Actually stole it from there's a store called a Hastings before they went under. I stole it, that and the Aleister Crowley's Book of Lies from out of the New Age section. I'm just admitting my faults and not saying you should steal. I'm just telling you what I did. I was like 15, 16, just went in there and stole them. But anyway, it doesn't say anything. Um, it doesn't say anything about having to there being any type of big there's not any testing or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's just that boom bam, you get it, and I think you get like a little card, Church of Satan membership card. You get a little card, I think, because I saw some lady on YouTube. All right. Official membership cards and certificates. There you go. Official membership, right? And it's got Baphomet on it and everything. So, and they'll do that, all right? You'll send your $225. You'll do all those things. And at the end of the day, guess what? You'll be, I'm a high-level Satanist. You're not. All right? You're not at the end of the day. You've deceived yourself. All right? Here's one. This is John 12 and 16. It says, with him is strength and wisdom. Who? Yahweh Shai, right? The Lord. It says, the deceived and the deceiver are his. So those that are deceiving individuals, all right, the Lord is controlling. And those that are being deceived, the Lord is also controlling as well. But anyway, let's get started up with the lesson. That's a long, rambly thing and took, that long to get a scripture. But Slacky, I didn't really have anything to get a scripture on yet because I was rambling. But anyway, go and watch that, if you will. And I don't know, could be interesting, could not be interesting. But anyway, what we're talking about today is covering casts. Okay, covering cast. Now, if you don't know what a covering cast is, well, the scripture's going to explain it. All right, but in short, a covering cast is essentially a veil, all right, that has been, or a net, or a blanket, however you want to call it, a veil, a sheet that's been thrown over all nations, all right, upon the face of the earth. And we see it in a variety of different ways, but primarily the covering cast is not ethnicity, but I guess ethnicity. Yeah, we do see it in what they would call quote unquote ethnicity. It's not true ethnicity, but they would call it ethnicity. Because we know your true ethnic origins go back through your father. Through his father's lineage, starting with him, and not starting with him, but beginning with him on back, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. And tracing that lineage, how you know you're an Israelite is, again, we don't have a in-depth list of our fathers, and we know the ancestry goes off. So of course the one way we know is because we can call upon the name Yahweh Shai. We can serve Yahweh Shai in truth and sincerity. We can make these lessons, watch these lessons, and most importantly, as knowing you're Israelite, understand. All right, understand. All right, if you can make a lesson and you can understand the scriptures and break it down, you'd have to be an Israelite because Esau cannot do so. Hell, half these Israelites can't even do it, all right, because they're bugged out. But if you can do that, that's a surefire way to know you are an Israelite for sure. And even if you don't get it, that doesn't mean you're not an Israelite. There's a lot of our people that are, again, as the scripture said, we've been hammering it out lately. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Okay. So a lot of them don't know, but you can see there's like an inkling, all right, with Jake. I've seen it before, and it doesn't happen with Esau. I've mentioned this testimony before. When you tell a 2/3 Jake, all right, or maybe not even a 2/3 Jake, but a Jake that's yet to come into the truth, may potentially be a part of elect, but they haven't came into the truth. They haven't woken up, which is, I mean, the times are drawing thin, all right, but there's still a little bit of time, but maybe, all right. I know the apostle Dahar has mentioned before. All right, I haven't heard him say it directly, but I believe the apostle Gabar mentioned that apostle Dahar believes, all right, that the elect could potentially already be sealed, right? But and that could be the case, so who knows? But I mean, if you have the inclination of this truth, you have there's a word for it. It's not coming to my mind. If you have a pull, all right, a gravitational pull towards this truth, all right, That's a good sign. All right, so keep with it, learn it. All right. But yeah, so that's how we know we're Israelites. But really, it goes back to your father's line. All right. And that's how we know now. All right. Back then, you'd be able to trace your lineage a little bit better. There was, huge genealogical lists. All right. We see within the Bible. All right. And so begat so and so and so and so begat so and so and so and so begat so and so. Matter of fact, in the Bible, I don't know if any of mine have it because I know it was the older versions. They used to actually have an area where you could put your own genealogical. Let me see if this one has it. This is 1611, so I don't know. I don't know that this one has it at all. I don't think it does, actually. Let me see. Bear with me. No, it don't. Fuck you. I dropped my little cheat sheet that I keep in this Bible for quick scriptural reference. But it's not in that one. Let me go see if it's in the go see if it's in my other one, which I don't think so either. This is actually a really cool Bible. I'll show it again. Um, just because I like the depiction on it, right? Check this out. I am. All right. There it is. And I know I still got that same stuff in the background that I need to take downstairs. Don't worry, I know it's there. But yeah, you can see it. This is my study Bible. It's got all these tabs and stuff on it, but I like the what it says at the back. It says the sands of time for this old sin-cursed world are fast running out. Prophecy of Yahweh's holy word are nearly all fulfilled. And what is that flying to Earth? Specifically America? Oh, nuclear missiles, man. All right, so let's go see if it's in here. Let me go see if it's in here. I'll turn that on for a moment. Let's see. Ooh, that page is ripping right out. Oh well, let's bracketed numbers. At the front of the course. I don't think this one has it either. But here, this is the best way to do it, man. This is the best way to do it. This is what you do. So what you do, put this Bible back. Put them both back. I got them back the wrong way. Slack you. So what you want to do is, way to do it is just to look it up. All right. Can't figure it out. Can't prove it. Then just figure it out. Slack you. Let me that. So Bible genealogy section blank family tree chart. Yeah, if your Bible if your Bible contains empty pages designed for family record genealogy, these sections are traditionally intended for you to handwrite your own family's history, and they used to have that in a lot of the Bibles, right? I don't know about necessarily lists, but yeah, family register. All right, that used to be something that those are something that people would keep back in the day. People don't really keep those anymore. I mean, right here's a good example: the genealogy of Abraham. Right, Abraham, Isaac, and then down through Isaac we got Jacob, and through Jacob, of course, you got all 12 tribes of Israel. Right, all 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. But nowadays, people don't keep those records like that. So now we just have to go off of the through the Spirit. All right. But anyway, and this was back in those times. It was easier for us to understand identity. Okay, but of course, through Esau's deception, again, the scripture, the deceived and the deceiver are his. Well, through Esau's deception, all right, starting with the rebirth, all right, which is the Renaissance. All right, what What does the Renaissance mean? It should say rebirth. Yeah, rebirth. The word Renaissance, all right, literally translates to rebirth. It describes Europe's reawakening. All right, it says after what was deemed as the cultural stagnation of the Middle Ages. No, it's because the Middle Ages were really a time ruled by Jake. You can look up Dark Ages, specifically Dark Ages. They like to say it was for all these different reasons, but the Dark Ages were the Dark Ages for a reason. All right, it was controlled by Jake. That's before the 1,000 year had hit. All right, and the 1,000 year prophecy is when after 1,000 years, all right, the um blessing, all right, that Isaac, all right, gave Esau, part of it, all right, would because all of it was true, but part of it would come true, meaning when you shall break the yoke, we can go there. We just talked about it the other day. Shall break his yoke from off thy neck. Right here. This is Genesis 27 and 40 right here. It says, and this is, well, we'll start with 39. This is after Esau. We'll start with 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Okay, he cried out to his father, and that's what he does. He's a crybaby, essentially. Esau's always depicted as he cries a lot. And that's another way we can tell who he is. You see these little Edomite kids on the playground when we were kids. They were the ones that were always crying. They they fall down. Excuse me. Ooh. That jerk chicken sauce. My stomach's not liking it. It says, and Esau said unto his father, Slakia, but we'll continue. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou one blessing, my father? Of course, because he was begging for a blessing, because Jacob had came and gotten the blessing that he thought he was entitled to, but he wasn't entitled that blessing because, of course, he sold his birthright. All right, it was a transaction. He sold his birthright for a pot of uncooked meat. Right. Half cooked meat, if you want the benefit of the doubt, Esau, but it wasn't cooked. It says, bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And again, you see all the Edomite kids, when we were on the playground, they'd always cry. They'd fall down and cry. They wouldn't get their way and they'd cry. Someone else would do something that they didn't like and they'd cry. And we see that a lot now. All right, still, they have that same lifestyle. I don't know if you want to call it lifestyle. Is it still the same in this day and age? These people are always constantly crying and bitching and moaning. Maybe not necessarily a cry as in a physical tear, right? Tears dropping from the face, but they're always crying as in moaning. All right, as the English would say, moan, English slang. Okay, what does it mean? Make a moan is expressing unhappiness, making a complaint, or grumbling. All right, you're moaning. All right, stop having a moan about the weather. All right, so he's always moaning about his job, and we'll hear some of that in American English, but it's really in England. You'll see a lot like, oh yeah, quit your moaning. Right, which is, in America, moaning has more of a, like it says, look, you see in Reddit, it says, how can I avoid the sexual connotation with the word moan? They think of, sexual sounds of pleasure. All right, keeping it as PG as possible on the Sabbath. But that's what a lot of people associate what moan means. But in English slang, moan means to express discontent with a situation, make a complaint. All right, for example, I was moaning about having to go to work. All right, I'll quit moaning about going to work and just do it. Right. So that would be moaning about, and that's what we see a lot with Esau. They're bitching and moaning. There's a American slang that you'll hear, bitching and moaning, and just on one constantly. These illegals, or these blacks, and these are this or that, or the America's being destroyed, or it's always something. Right, it's always something. They're always, if they're not physically crying, they're, emotionally crying. They're crying out with their voice about some disgrievance or fucking discontent that they happen to have, because they're very unhappy people at the end of the day. They're really joyless. If you really want to get down to it, Esau is joyless. They don't have anything that really makes them happy at the end of the day. other than bringing harm, and even that's not good enough because again they cannot, as the scriptures say, he cannot uh, cannot be satisfied, all right, essentially, roughly paraphrasing, cannot be satisfied. So he's not satisfied with anything. And if you're not satisfied with anything, that's an unhappy person. Think about you got $1,000, you're not happy with it. A million, you're not happy. A billion, you're not happy with it. All right. And that's, he's not satisfied with it. And that means if you're not satisfied, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not hating that he got $1 billion, but that's not enough for him. It's not something that, really brings him a full sense of joy. It makes him happy for a moment, but he's unsatiable. Okay, he's unsatiable, and an unsatiable person really can never experience joy. All right, because joy is usually brought by some sediment of satiation. All right, you had your prayer come true, and you're happy about that, and that's joy. All right. With Esau, I mean, they don't even have really full joy, even if they were able to get all their goals that they are trying to enact currently, right? Say they got their NWA, all right, NWA, their NWO, and they got their NWA. There's millions, all right, all across the face of the world. All right, that's who they're trying to destroy. is is the ninjas with attitudes, right? That's who they have a problem with. They have a problem with the ones without attitudes too. All right. They just have a problem with our people in general, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And you know, they'll even if they'll never be satisfied, right? They'll never it's like Darth Vader, right? It's like killing Darth Vader. Even if the Lord allowed them to just kill all of us, kill all the elect, kill everybody and take everybody out, they still wouldn't be satisfied, right? They'd kill Darth Vader. What would they do now? All right, they'd essentially lose their mind. They wouldn't have anything to do. Right? They wouldn't have anything to do. And it'd be, what kind of life is that? But anyway, in verse 40, it says, and by thy sword, Slakia 39, this is the blessing that Isaac blessed him with. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, not thou, but shall thou live, and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, when you have the ability to do so, right? That thou shalt break his yoke. All right, a yoke is a slavery type shackle. All right, that's put on. Most prominently was put on us. Okay, and that's in Deuteronomy 28, going into the curses. And you got these small hats that are saying, oh, that's dealing with us. We're the small hats. All right, but we're the people. We're the people. We're the people. Well, when were you ever put in yokes? All right, outside of this situation. All right, when were you ever put in yokes outside of this situation? Okay, you weren't. So it says, and then it goes on to say, of course, in 41, it says, in Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. Because again, they were salty, and that's again why Esau hates us. Again, you can see it right here. It says, and Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning are for my father at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob, and he kept that. All right, you can go and get that scripture. Perpetual hatred, which means it never went away. Okay, through bloodline through bloodline through bloodline through that Edomite lineage, starting with Esau. All right, really, if you really want to get down to it, that starting with Cain. Okay, because Cain had that same spirit that Esau had on him. That's why he killed his brother Abel, and he had that brother killing spirit on him, and that's that same bloodline. All right, through Esau, that's that same thing. And a lot of people say, black people, they kill their brethren a lot. Well, yeah, but that's part of the curses in 28. All right, that's not part of who we are as a people. That's part of the curses that were put on us from disobedience. Okay, mind you, those are part of the curses. The curses are not synonymous with what the scripture said about Esau in this state exactly. For example, they'll say, oh well, who else is in Genesis it mentions a yoke of a yoke being on their neck, and then in Deuteronomy 28 it mentions yokes of iron. So that must be Esau. No. All right, because I already know some Esau out there is going to try to, some Edomite out there is going to try that, make that connotation. They're going to try to make that connection, and no, that's not how it was. And just like that's Deuteronomy 28 is not a framework for how we are as a people. All right, and normally in our natural state. Okay, that's how we are now because of our disobedience. But those are things that are put on us, so don't get that twisted as that's how we are as a core. Esau as a core, Esau is not under the curses. Esau as a core is that individual. We are like that currently because of the rebellion that our people have done, and being under the curses mentioned in Deuteronomy 28. So anyway, but this is that perpetual hatred that they still continue to have to that seed line of their father. Before I get into that, I've got it recently, but we always got to show it. Declared their pedigrees. This is Numbers 1 and 18. We just got it the other day. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. Okay, and there's more to that, but that's what we'll get. If you get in the new Revised Standard Version, let's see if it well, it cuts out the father part, but it says, and on the first day of the second month, they assembled the whole congregation together. They registered themselves in their clans by their ancestral houses. Let's get the easy to read version. Really pissed me off the other day, but let's see what they have for it. No, still, that's why the King James version they never get. Why don't they want to get that it was by their father? All right, see, they want to get rid of that, because again, your lineage comes through your father. That's the Ant Bible. It says, and assembled all the congregation. And again, this was right before, like basically almost like it wasn't a call to battle, but it was after that they were registering essentially for battle. It says, and assembled all the congregation on the first day of the second month, and they registered by ancestry in their families by their fathers' households. Okay, so through their father's lineage, and that's how it was. You can actually go and look it up. Was biblical ethnicity determined by the father? Overwhelmingly determined by the father's lineage. A child born to an Israelite father and a foreign mother was generally considered an Israelite. Okay, it should mention was it Ephraim? Or I mean, look at that as well. Look, Joseph, Moses, King Solomon all had children with foreign wives. Egyptian, Midianite, Moabite women, and these children were fully integrated into Israelite tribes, so they were called by whatever the father was. All right. Let's see. Tribal affiliation. Membership in the specific 12 tribes of Israel was strictly tracked through the male line. There you go. So it doesn't matter what your father is. That's Satan. It doesn't matter what your mother is. If your father is something, that's what you are. If your father's an Edomite and you got an Israelite mother, guess what, buddy? You're an Edomite. Okay. If you got an Edomite mom, all right, an Israelite father, such as I myself, all right, you are an Israelite. Okay. You might look a little bit more creamer in the coffee than usual. All right, might end up, to the extent where you even end up looking like me. Because if your father, here it was, going back, if your father's father was brown and his mom was white, all right, now he's gonna be a little lighter, and then he gets with a white woman, and now you're gonna be way lighter. All right, and it really only takes about 2 generations, maybe 3, if we're being generous to completely wipe out almost all the melanin from a person's skin, and that's all it takes, man. So there's a lot of people out there that you don't know that you actually have so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American ancestry. All right, going back to the 12 tribes of Israel, but you don't know because you don't look like a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American. All right, it's the same thing with a lot of you people that think you're so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. Well, at the end of the day, a lot of you end up going back to Esau as well. There's a lot of tares among the nation of Israel, and a tare going off the biblical story, all right, or example or parable is if you look at what a tare is, tare versus wheat, and that's what the parable is talking about, is tare versus wheat. They look very similar, all right, but at the end of the day, the Lord only wants the wheat, and he wants to destroy and burn up the tares, all right, but you got to wait to the appointed season, okay? Then all the wheat's going to be gathered in the barn, the tares are going to be lit on fire. Why do you got to wait? Okay, because again, they look very, very similar. All right, here's a better example where you can just passing by, without knowing really what wheat looks like, you could be deceived. You might, get the wrong idea. You might think this is wheat and this is a tare, or you might have a little bit of tares among the wheat, and like it was mentioned in the parable, and you might rip out some of the wheat along with the tares. You don't want to do that, right? So anyway, and there's bloodline, lineage tares, all right, those that look like Israelites but are not, and then on top of that, there's also spiritual tares, all right, who are Israelites by blood, but they are basically spiritually akin to Esau. All right? It doesn't mean you're an Edomite, but you act like Esau, talk like Esau, walk like Esau, believe the things Esau, worship Esau's gods, all these different types of things that are really Idumean in nature. Right. But anyway, getting back onto the topic, this is a little bit of a rambly lesson. It is about almost 2 a.m., so that's how I end up getting with these. But, Salakia, it says, in the Hebrew Bible, ethnicity, tribal affiliation, and inheritance were overwhelmingly determined by father's lineage. What does this say? I'm logged into Reddit, so I'm gonna just do it this way, so it doesn't have my account on here. It says yeah, that's interesting. It says according to the Bible, Jewish heritage was determined by descent from the father. So why is it that in modern times we see Jewish heritage being determined by descent from the mother? What happened? Um, let's see. There's a lot of different information. It says I've addressed this issue many times, and though it is popular thought that the descent is determined by the father in the Hebrew Bible, a close analysis of the extant edge cases of mixed lineage individuals in the Bible show that this is not so clear cut. Well, give us some references. What examples? So some evidence is outright contradictory to such an idea. Okay, so they're saying the Bible's contradicting. So we're not going to read that anymore because this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So moving on. You can go back if you want to read it, but you're not going to get any. As soon as like, oh, it's actually contradictory in nature. No, there's no biblical contradictions. There's biblical misunderstandings. All right, and a lot of these people that are out here in the world calling themselves scholars, calling themselves historians, as we saw on that page, calling themselves Bible scholars, calling themselves academics, calling themselves apt students, calling themselves all these different names, and intellectual. They're really just not a contradiction, but they really just don't have the understanding. They really just don't get it. Okay, a lack of knowledge. All right, that is poured upon them, and that's all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemiao Shai, and that's that spirit of as it says, spirit of this. On them is the spirit of blind. In them is fulfilled Isaiah. There it is. And in them, yeah, as Isaiah, right? Isaiah. So it says, and in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah or Isaiah, which saith, by hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and shall not perceive. All right. So that's what I'm talking about with biblical misunderstandings. All right. These individuals have biblical misunderstanding, which means they are misunderstanding the Bible. Okay. They think that there's a contradiction. They think that there's something that doesn't add up. That is a biblical misunderstanding, not a biblical contradiction. All right. And you are at fault for the biblical misunderstanding. It's not the scripture's fault that you misunderstood it. It's your fault. All right. Because, at the end of the day, the Lord's not dealing with you. All right. That prophecy of Isaiah or Isaiah is fulfilled in you. All right. And what is that? Hearing ye shall hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and shall not perceive. And I always do my crazy little thing when I talk about this. Now, if I go and say, who was lurk for flarbing? All right, well, I just meant that I was taking a look at the sticky note that I have stuck to this cup of coffee, but you didn't understand that. But you heard it, but why didn't you understand it? All right. Well, because I didn't give you the key to understand it. I didn't tell you which the made up word, and I don't have a key for it. I'm just fucking around. Um, I didn't give you the code. All right. If sticky note in my language is florbert, all right. Well, unless you know what florbert means, then you're not going to know that I'm talking about a sticky note. So you're going to hear it, but you're not going to understand what florbert means. Okay. But all those that understand what florbert means understand I'm talking about a sticky note. Boom. Right. Now, if I have you look at this, if I draw, let me draw something. Uh, okay. Here we go. Drew this on my little note from covering cast. What's this here? All right, look at it. You're seeing it. You know what it is, right? You should be able to tell what that is. All right. What is it? What is it? Well, you don't have any idea what it is because I just made it up. All right. Well, this is actually a stick. All right. This is a long stick, and it's got a little one of those things like those little pointing hands that you see on TikTok. Well, it's just the top of that. The rest of this is actually just a stick, and it's actually got like a sword, like almost like the fencing sword handle on it. And then I added a cool little ball down here just because it looked cool. And what's this for? It's for you know turning on the power button to my computer, right? From a far distance. I just made it up. I just drew it and just came up with the concept right on the spot. But you didn't know that. You saw it though. So why couldn't you perceive what it was? Well, again, I didn't give you the key. The same thing with flurburp, all right, meaning sticky note. Well, you didn't know that because, again, you didn't know the key. And, again, you didn't know the key for this. You didn't understand. It was not given to you. I didn't give you the information, right? So going back into 14, and in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, by hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and shall not perceive. So the same thing with flurburp and this, stick of turning on computer thing, right? That's how the scriptures are to them. Okay. Now that you know what flurburp is, because I've said it a bunch of times, what's flurburp? All right, it's a sticky note. All right, and then what is that stick thing I made? What is this? What is that image? I'm not going to put it back on the screen, but what is that image? Right. Well, now you know, but everybody else doesn't know because they don't have the key. They don't have the knowledge. All right, they weren't granted. They weren't granted that knowledge by someone that only had that knowledge. All right, only the Lord had this knowledge. All right, and He gave it. All right, to those that believed in him. Okay. For example, right here it says in 15, for this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear and have not heard them. So again, there's only certain people are going to get it. Okay, only certain people are going to get it at the end of the day, and that's just how it is. And the Lord, there's a scripture, Spirit, this is a good one. That one's good too. I mean, that's probably one of the more famous ones. This is no. There it is again. That dyscalculia. Slovakia. Um, 1 Corinthians 3 and 16, know ye not that ye are the temple of Yahweh, and that the Spirit of Yahweh dwelleth in you. All right, and that Spirit is the Holy Spirit. All right, that's that Spirit of the Lord. There's one that actually specifically talks about that. Um, This is good. Romans 8, 9 through 11, it says, but ye are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. All right, we're not walking after the flesh, but the spirit. It says, if so be that the Spirit of Yahweh dwell in you. Now, if any man have not the Spirit of Hamashiach, he is none of his. And if Hamashiach be in you, the body is dead because of sin. Sin is actually, dead. All right, if you're really a sinner, you're actually dead. All right, because the only thing that actually brings life into you is this truth. It says, but the Spirit is life because of righteousness. But if the Spirit of him that raised up Yahushua from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Hamashiach from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his Spirit that dwelleth in you. So that same exact Spirit that brought Yahushua back to life, all right, is the same Spirit that dwells in us. Okay, that's that Holy Spirit. Okay, so where else do we want to get here? But yeah, so a lot of people can't understand this. But anyway, that's how you know about biblical, who we are biblically is through the Father's lineage, all right? And all, and so begat so and so begat so and so. There's several genealogical chapters within the Bible. All right, there's the genealogy of Abraham, the genealogy of Yahushai. There's several. Matter of fact, how many genealogical chapters are within the Bible? 14 that contain genealogies. There is an exact number of genealogical chapters. 1 Corinthians 1 and 9, Adam, Saul. Genesis contains several chapters. Matthew 1 and Luke 3. These are the most well-known New Testament genealogies, both tracing the lineage of Yahushua and Mashiach. So there you go. So you see several. And what's the importance? Right? Well, the importance is that if you don't have that, then it's going to be very hard to know who you exactly are, right? There's brothers out there that are Israelites, and they think they're, so-called Negroes, all right? And the so-called, I'm black. They were called black, all right, throughout life, but really at the end of the day, they're actually Gadites, all right, which would be, so-called Native Americans. Now, the new thing is that, we're indigenous, the so-called black people say, we're indigenous. Well, some, but no, nobody's really indigenous to the land of America like that. Well, I mean, not Jake, all right, when we were scattered abroad, yeah, Jake came here, but you're not native to this land. You're native to the land of Israel. Okay, you're an Israelite. Okay, the Lord's chosen people. All right, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. We say so-called again because at the end of the day, that's not what you are. All those terms, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American, Latinx, colored, black, African American, Spanish, Hispanic, all these different terms, Indian, Native American, Indigenous American, indigenous, all these different terms are covering casts, all right, that we're talking about today. All right, Mexican, Venezuelan, Colombian, Puerto Rican covering casts. They are all covering casts. Again, going back into it one last time for the lesson, the inheritance, all these things were overwhelmingly determined by father's lineage, ethnicity. So ethnicity, that's what pedigree means. Pedigree means ethnicity. Okay, and these people, Edomites, going back into their pedigree, their ethnicity, there's a long lineage of murderers and killers and just vile human beings. Ezekiel 35 and 5 shows that they're going to stay like that, and they're going to stay hating us, and they hate us because, again, the blessing that they got from Isaac. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. And then the Lord goes on to tell them, that there's going to be bloodshed of theirs. It says, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. So that thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So blood's going to pursue them because they didn't, they didn't hate it. They loved it. They love bloodshed. Um, that's the type of things that they're involved in. They love, watching, going back to that video I was talking about the ethical hacker exposed a satanic cult targeting children. A lot of those individuals, I'd be willing to bet, are Edomites, all right, because they have that, they love blood, all right, they love those types of things, watching people die, causing people to die, especially causing people to die while watching it, all right, things like snuff films and all those things. Those are all Edomite customs. They really like those things, right? It gets them off, essentially, not necessarily sexually, but I guess you could say spiritually wicked in a way, a spiritually wicked way. But if like that's something, that's the closest they ever get to feeling fulfilled. All right, is doing stuff like that. They're really unsatisfiable, but the closest that they ever get is watching people die, causing people to die, eating human flesh, doing things like that. It sounds fucking crazy. It sounds bugged out, but this is the reality we're living in, man. This is the reality we're living in. But anyway, rambling on the a bunch of subjects. All right, like a madman. All right, and this truth will make you mad. All right, it'll drive you mad with knowledge. Right? They say they equate it to insanity. All right, but it's not really insanity. It's just what's perceived as insanity. All right. Um, if you're perceived as insane, all right, to the average man, congratulations, you must be going in a step of the right direction, because these individuals, anything that is not mad, again, mad is outside the realms of acceptable knowledge, okay? And we've been driven mad, right, by knowledge, all right? What does it mean? What does it mean to be driven mad with knowledge? It might be a little out there, but let's see. What does it mean to be driven mad with knowledge? It says being driven mad with knowledge is a thematic and psychological concept describing a state where learning the fundamental, often overwhelming truth about existence shatters a person's ability to cope with reality. Well, not necessarily. It shatters our ability to how's the best way to explain it? It shatters our ability to be able to fit in with individuals. Okay, it shatters our ability to be able to perceive this world as anything that it's not. Okay, perceiving this place as a good place, as a good place with good people, just a few bad apples. It has shattered that reality from us. Okay, and I'd like to redefine what it means to be driven mad with knowledge. I would say it's a state where learning the fundamental and often overwhelming truth about existence shatters a person's ability to be intermingled with what's what is known as acceptable within the current reality of individuals. All right, you can no longer fit with what is called reality to most. Okay, we are beyond the confines of reality. It sounds bugged out, but we are in the true reality. They're still in a fucking fairy tale. Okay, I know it sounds bugged out. It's kind of hard to explain because it's very would be esoteric, right? Esoteric. Knowledge, ideas, and interests that are tend likely to be understood by only a small. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's quite esoteric, as they would say. That only a small group are going to be able to understand these things. But we are in a different reality. We are in the real reality. All right. It's like we took the red pill. All right. You took the blue pill. All right. If you want to use Matrix, these people chose to stay asleep and in the dream sequence, all right, about what they think is real. Okay. On the other hand, we didn't choose. We were guided through Yahweh Shai Shai into the real reality, and the real reality ain't so sweet. Okay. It's not like staying asleep. Okay. We've awoke, all right? Scripture that mentions that, all right? And awaking from that, you're waking from that sleep. What is that sleep? That's another one of those veils that's put over the eyes of the common man, inhabitants of this society, of the whole world, not just America, about they have this perceived idea of what the world is and that there's good people, and they don't understand really what's going on. They don't understand the destruction coming this place. They don't understand the formulation of America, who it's from, the lies, all the big league banking families and the cabal and all these different things that are running on, the secret work. I'm not talking about the little dancing ballerina on the top of the music box, right? Ballerina music box. I'm not talking about the ballerina on the music box that everybody sees. I'm talking about what's in here. I'm talking about the gears, the things that drive society, all right, the things that make the ballerina tick. Because everybody in America, all right, and not just in America, but everybody across the world that hasn't received the knowledge of Yahweh Shem Shai, the Holy Spirit, they're just seeing the ballerina. We can see the ballerina. We know the ballerina is full of shit, all right? We know that the ballerina is nothing more than a veil of what's going on in this box down here. There's a lot more going down here than there is here, all right? And if you just started to look at the ballerina and you just keep going down, you say, what's this? What is this little piece? That's interesting. Where that goes? And see what that is? That's a hole, all right? And eventually you drop down, you say, because in modern reality, there's little bits and pieces that just don't add up, all right? Some people say, what's this little pole here attached to the ballerina? There's no pole attached to the ballerina. No, but there is. You can see it. And that's that first step, all right, that people take to start realizing something's not quite what it makes itself out to be. And then you go look at that pole. Where's that pole leading? All right, it must be leading down to a gear. What gears are connected to that gear? What other mechanics are down there? With the twisting, the thing that makes it twist. Who's twisting the box? Who's making it all go? Right? That's the type of things that we think, and that's quite esoteric in itself. Because again, a lot of people aren't looking to that, all right? So we've been driven mad with knowledge, all right? Really, we've been driven, like it says, the average person is going to think we're a fool. They're going to think we're mad. They're going to think we're crazy. They're going to think we're nuts. Tell a person that dark-skinned, so-called black men with afros are piloting chariots. Oh, they're actually the angels, and Yahushua is actually amongst them. And and anyway, a so-called black man and several angels is coming back on UFOs to destroy America. That's actually Babylon the Great that the Bible talked about several thousand years ago in prophecy. See it. Would they not declare you as mad? Would they not think that you're crazy? They would think you're crazy. All right. You want to know why? Because the truth has shattered that existence. When we tell them that, it's trying to it's tapping the glass, and they don't want their reality shattered. Okay, they do not want their reality shattered, because once you shatter that reality, welcome to the new reality, the real reality. Because the reality that they know is not the real. There's no real in it. Reality. There's no realness in it. All right. It's really the faux-ality. All right. It would be spelt like this. So, folity, blend of the word faux, meaning fake, and lity is in reality. So, fake reality. All right. So, fake reality. Okay. Fake reality. All right. So that it would be the faux-ality. Okay. Instead of reality, the faux-ality. Okay, they shatter that veil of the faux-ality and they bring you into reality. We're in the reality now. They're in the faux-ality, right? I don't know if that's a term anybody's ever coined, but I'm coining it now. All right, faux-ality. That's what they're in. They're in the fake reality. They think it's real, all right, but it's not. All right, it's just a cleverly devised. It's like in Dungeons and Dragons or other books or stuff or movies, world building. All right, world building. All right, look up what is world building. Okay, world building is a process of constructing an imaginary universe and setting up a story. It's used by novelists, filmmakers, and game designers to create believable, immersive environments with unique histories, geographies, culture, and social rules. That's all that this fucking is. It's the Elite's world building game. That's all they've done. All right, just like authors and filmmakers and game designers all use those things. All right, they build their own world. Oh, this is the world of. I mean, go and look at the Elder Scrolls, for example. The world of Tamriel. They have the world of Tamriel, and within Tamriel, you have Cyrodiil, you have Skyrim, you have Morrowind, you have all these different worlds, and you have peninsulas or continents, however you want to call them. And in there, you have their own, example, in Morrowind, you got the Telvanni, you got all these different people. You have the Imperials, all right. You have all these different things, all right. All these different things. You have the Dragonfires with the royal, going back to the emperors and there's more in that, and you have all these different things, and you even have religion. You have the false gods in there they're called gods in the game, but I say false gods anytime I mention something that's not really the Lord. You have Talos and Dibella and Mara and Akatosh, Kinnereth, right? All these different false gods in the game, and they have Mundus, all right, which is like the ethereal plane, and you have Oblivion, not to be confused with the game that's based on Oblivion, but Oblivion's essentially like planes of the Daedra, which are the Daedra are like the demons in their realms. Their realms are called realms of Oblivion, planes of Oblivion, not realms, but planes of Oblivion, and everybody has a different one. And you look into that, it's the same thing. Right? Well, they have God and Jesus Christ, and they have, America, and that's not its real name, but that's what they call it. And they have, the people that are in control. They're not the Imperials, and they're not the Telvanni, but they're the even in games like that, there's like the Thalmor. All right, and again, those that have played the games are gonna understand this, but like the Thalmor, again, they're really like the small hats. All right, they're like a combination of the small hats with a well, really the true small hats, the small hats that are part of the Illuminated. All right, the 33 degree Masons and the Cabal and the Elite. All right, the big league banking families. That's what they're really in reference to, and they're secretly controlling things behind the scenes. They know of the name, all right, but they don't really know who the people running it are. They don't know what their real goal is. A lot of people say, "Oh, they're not really, they're not really bad people. But they don't know the sinister secrets that they're actually doing." So there's that. There's all these different things, and that's America. All right, you got God and Jesus Christ. That's their God. You have America. You have all these different other lands. You have their races that they made in Skyrim and Elder Scrolls and Oblivion and Morrowind and Arena and Daggerfall and all the Elder Scrolls games. You have the Khajiit. All right, they're a cat-like people that have a lot of references to like Russian individuals. You have the Red Guards. All right, which they look like a so-called black people, and they're actually in reference to like kind of like Moorish, but they're more. I guess they are more like Moorish representation, but they're like Middle Eastern, but with like Middle Eastern Moor mix. And then you have the Bretons, which of course are a reference of the actual real world Bretons, as they would call themselves. You have the Nords, again, real world Nords. You have the Dark Elves, who are gray skinned elven individuals. All right. You have the High Elves, which are yellow skinned individuals. And High Elves are actually, they consider themselves to be more intelligent than everybody. And they're the ones that run the Thalmor, which is, again, that group of people that are secretly controlling everything in reference to really it's the small hats. They think they're better than everybody. They think they're naturally gifted, all these different types of things. And then you have all these different races. You have the Argonians that are lizard people with their own set of customs and all that stuff. Well, again, you have white people and black people. White people don't exist. Black people don't exist. All right. Again, we're here to, again, this is a long lesson. It's already been an hour and 13 minutes. There's a lot of rambling because there's just a lot of information I want to touch on here. There's a lot to it, man. And but they've built these things. They built all these things up, and they've world builded. They've put these covering casts out. All right, the Lord's really allowed them to. And now you have white people and black people and Mexican people and Spanish people and Native American. Native Americans don't exist, and black people and white people don't exist, and Mexicans don't exist. None of these people exist. They're not in the Bible. All right, if you go and look at Mexican, it's not going to be in the Bible. All right, you go and look at black people, not in the Bible. White people, not in the Bible. If you go and look up Puerto Rican people, they're not going to be in the Bible. Native American is not going to be in the Bible. America, not going to be in the Bible. All right, it is in the Bible as Babylon, but not the name, again, because this land is Babylon. But again, Esau has done his little world building thing, and he couldn't really build an actual world like the Lord can. All right, because the Lord's the ultimate world builder. He actually built it the way as it is. But Esau right now, because the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, let's go and give that. This is Job 9:24. It says, "The earth is given in the hand of the wicked. All right, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" And another one you got to get is border. Well, we could probably just look it up. Border of wickedness, right here, Malachi 1:4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished. This is Edom, Esau, right? Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. So again, they are the wicked. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and with that, they've kind of, reshaped what the Lord made. They've called all the different biblical lineages, and there's no land of Judah now. All right, there's no land of Moab. There's no land of Ammon or Amalek. They're gone. All right. Instead, now they're being called different things. All right, China, the Middle East area of a span of the Middle East. If you go and look up Middle East in the Bible, it's not going to be there either. All right, you're going to look at all these terms; they're not going to be in there. All right, but they are in the Bible, but they're just not in there as what Esau calls them, because again, what Esau did was essentially put a texture pack over the world. All right, they did a reskinning. Okay, they essentially went and took a Lord of the Rings and just put an X through it and said, no, this is the sword of Loretadon. All right, that's what this movie is. No, that's Lord of the Rings. No, it's not. It's the sword of Loretadon. It's not even about a sword. It's about a ring. Well, it doesn't matter. It's about there's swords. Whatever you say. And that's what Esau does. He's essentially reskinned everything. America is modern day Babylon. In Bible, you're going to hear it called the Great City, North Country, Babylon, all right, modern Babylon. Because there's Babylon that was destroyed, and then there's modern Babylon. You're going to hear it as spiritual Edom, spiritual Sodom, all right, spiritual Egypt. Yeah, the great country, great city, all right, all these different types of names, but you're not going to see America, right? So that's what they do. They've constructed an imaginary universe, right? They've constructed an imaginary universe. That's all they've done. And the Lord's allowed them to do that because, again, it was in the power of their hand. And when they started, really, it's been in the works for quite some time. And they weren't the only ones that were, that helped, formulate this lie. A lot of the nations helped along so with it. But during the Renaissance period, that's after that 1,000 years when, as we were talking about in Genesis, where it says, and when you shall have the dominion, you shall remove his yoke from off thy neck when you have dominion, roughly paraphrasing. Well, that's that 1,000 years period where they went forth and birthed the Renaissance. Okay, they birthed the Renaissance, which means rebirth. They were rebirthed, and that's when they went forth and did the iconoclasm, the Crusades. They did a lot of different stuff to spread, Christianity across, the progenitor of modern progenitor of the slave Bible. It's the same stuff, all right, same slave Bible stuff, but it's before the slave Bible had a name. That before it had a name, before the slave Bible was made, it was already a concept that was being taught. All right, it was just regular Idumean Christianity. All right, which is of course stemmed from again. If I keep on rambling, this lesson's going to take forever. But it stemmed from name well, really it comes from Sol Invicta. Sol Invictus, but it really comes from Sol Invictus was a representation that later on went to be what is it, man? It was what was it? Why am I drawing a blank? The something Christos. It was the it's like the it's really the progenitor of modern Jesus, as they would call him. But man, that's gonna drive me nuts. The let me see. Let me see. All I had to do with Rome. It was started with an S. Septimus Severus. No, it was Serapis. Serapis. Call all you how about you meow shy. Serapis Christos. Or Christos. No, it was Christos. I got it wrong. I double guessed myself. Serapis Christos. All right. It says it's a term heavily tied to historical debates, ancient syncretism. What is syncretism? Syncretism is the blending of distinct beliefs, create a unified system. That's essentially what Esau does. Esau does a lot of
syncretism.
Syncretism, all right. Part of that syncretism was ancient pagan beliefs ingraining themselves into modern Christianity, which modern Christianity, of course, stemmed from worship of Serapis. Let me grab a drink here. Look, syncretic deity. That's a Greekio. All right, Greekio, Egyptian god. Small g, knowing that it's not a real god. And it says a syncretic deity derived from the worship of Egyptian gods of Osiris and Apis. Serapis was extensively popularized in the 3rd century BC on the orders of Greek pharaoh Ptolemy for Soter, or Ptolemy I Soter. And really, this is the progenitor. You can go and look up that word. Loosely, the common belief that Serapis Christus is where the story of Jesus originated. No, not within the Bible, but that's where modern Christianity stems from. Some claim that Christianity borrowed its core tenets from the worship of Serapis. Yeah, pretty much. Modern Christianity. And Sol Invictus is something completely different. There's another rabbit hole we can go down. But if you look at Sol Invictus, I mean, you look at Sol Invictus on the back of a coin. I mean, you look at the front of a coin, and it has a man's face, all right, with writing above and below it. And then you look on the back, all right, and there's this, it looks awful lot like a U.S. quarter. Okay, and you know what they usually put if they're not putting an eagle on it? A lot of the time, Statue of Liberty. I bet if I can scroll, I can find it. It used to be more prominent. Let's see. I don't know why they don't do it as much. Probably got too, too nail on the hammer, hammer on the nail, right, as they would say. I mean, if you look at these types of things, all right, not holding the exact same thing, but I mean, come on, man. All right. Or if you go and look at the Statue of Liberty on this coin, and then you just go and look at Sol Invictus in general. I mean, come on. There should be a better depiction in here, too. I mean, look at it. It's uncanny. The resemblance is uncanny, even the lips and everything. And you want to know why? It's because this is not a depiction. You ever know, like, the Statue of Liberty, they say it's a woman. It's never looked like a woman. It's clearly a man. Right? If you go and look at the Statue of Liberty, all right, it says it is it just said it was a woman. It's it says it's a colossal neoclassical sculpture of a robed and crowned woman on Liberty Island. Okay, it says the statue is a figure of classically draped woman inspired by the Roman goddess of liberty, Libertas. Okay, well, that's what they say. You go and look at Libertas. Well, either way, it's still inspired by a Roman god. All right, why in America is there a statue of a Roman god, all right, or goddess? All right, why? Okay, and look at this. It says she sometimes also appeared in coins from the imperial period, such as Galba's Freedom of the People's coins during his short reign after the death of Nero. It's funny that Nero is mentioned here because that's the current ruler. All right, coming back to the regeneration. Okay, that's another thing that the Christians don't understand is the regeneration, all right, which is or reincarnation. I like to say, you hear regeneration a lot because reincarnation can be falsely attributed to the Hinduism version of reincarnation, where they think you can come back as a cow, and that's bugged out. You always come back in your lot. It's proof in the Bible. All right, you can type in nothing new under the sun. We're under the sun, right? And there's no more remember former things either, so we're not going to remember who we were all the time. The Lord does throw out a few curveballs sometimes, but in general, no. But anyway, they say it's the Greek goddess of Libertas, okay? But if you really look into it and you look at the way it's shaped and the way it's looked, it doesn't really look as the god Libertas, all right? Goddess. Okay, this is the Libertas goddess. All right, these are more modern depictions. Libertas, the goddess of freedom. Weird Italy. All right. All these different things. Statue of Liberty is a statue of Roman goddess Libertas. Yeah, again, people are getting it. But to me, I mean, this is just my personal thing. It looks more like soul. Okay. And the other thing is say, oh, it's the Greek goddess Libertas goddess. We'll type that in. And if you look at Libertas, she has breasts. Okay, see the breasts. All right, even that had breasts. All right, even this one has breasts. All right, all right. Check it out. Boobs, 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 boobs. So tell me why, when you go back to the Statue of Liberty, why are there no boobs? Okay, I guess you could kind of see maybe some semblance of something right here. But that just looks to me. It could be. I'd have to see a side view. This is a front view. Can I get a different view? Oops. Because I bet. Yeah, look, 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 look. Right there. Boom. Leaf disc dedicated to Sol Invictus, the sun god of the late Roman Empire. Sol Invictus, along with Libertas, the Roman goddess and personification of liberty, influenced the design of liberty enlightening the world. So yeah, it's a liberty enlightening the world, statue of liberty. So it's literally directly, it's a combination of Libertas and Sol Invictus. All right, right there, it gives you that information away, right? And why would they use a Roman sun god? Okay, that has lots of different that's a whole nother um that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. Again, rabbit hole within 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 rabbit hole. Um but anyway, I'll just make this into one big lesson because I was gonna do two today, but I'll just do one big one. Yeah, anyway, let's get into the core of the actual lesson because we've been talking about all this extra stuff. All right, going on this ramble. Um, or I guess, debating if I want to leave it there. No, I gotta get it. I'll just look. You watch it in pieces, right? So anyway, the core, all right, of this lesson before we went on, a series of several tangents with dealing with America and the lies about America and all these different other things that I went on a tangent about, and Esau and his lineage and how your lineage is determined by the father. Really, all information that's needed for this. Excuse me. Isaiah 25:7 mentions something, and it says, "And he will destroy." Well, we got it. Who is he? Lord, all right, Isaiah 25:6, and in this mountain shall the Lord of hosts make unto all people a feast of fat things, a feast of wines on the lees of fat things full of marrow, of wines on the lees well refined. It's talking about a feast, of really celebration. All right, after this happens. Verse 7, and he will destroy in his mountain the face of the covering cast over all people and the veil that is spread over all nations. So there's two words here: covering casts, all right, and veil. Okay, veil, or you see VAIL. Sometimes you'll see VEIL. All right, instead of VAIL, you'll see VEIL. So anyway, so the covering, all right, covering means what? Okay, and you can, this is the Blue Letter Bible. You can go and look at the interlinear, and of course, this is in the Old Testament, so it's going to be in Greek, Hebrew, duh. It's going to be in Greek, Hebrew again. It's like it's almost 3 a.m. So yeah, my brain's definitely getting a little wiry. But you go down here, you click on the you just click on the verse, all right, and it'll bring it up, and then you go down, you can look in the Strong's, Hebrew or Greek, depending on if you're in the Old or New Testament. But anyway, the word covering here, I clicked on it, H3875, all right, it goes back to the word.
Strong's H3875, lot.
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 All right, it comes from this word, lut, all right, which means to wrap, to envelop, okay? What does to envelop mean? What does it mean to envelop? To cover something completely. Okay, a fog, darkness. Yeah, so to completely surround something. Completely surround. I'm gonna write that down. Talking point. Completely surround. Okay, completely surround. So Esau, all right, has completely surrounded, all right, the world, all right, with these this cover, all right, this cover. This envelop, what, again, we already got what envelop means. Envelop means to completely surround, to completely cover. Okay, so a covering cast, okay, which goes to the word loot. All right, covering cast. So Slakia, so two words, covering cast. So, and we see one uses this word and one uses the root. So it would be loot, lut, or loot, lot. All right, which, to wrap closely in a covering. Okay, a covering. Okay, to wrap up in a veil, to wrap up in a covering. What is a veil? Okay, a piece of cloth or net. Okay, and what is it designed to do? It's designed to cover or hide the face. Well, it can also be, that's just one version. Define. It can all to veil, all right, to cover, to disguise. Look, completely surround, disguise. Okay, shroud. Okay, so to cover, to put a veil on something, to disguise, to mask the true nature of something or someone. Okay, and veiling one's true intentions was the example. So they have to mask the true nature. Okay, Esau has masked. This is the going to be the title. Has masked the true um the true Esau has masked the true biblical identities or ethnicities. True biblical quotation, not quotation, but parentheses, covering past. Right? Something like that. Something like that, man. All right. So Esau has masked either the true biblical identity ethnicities or our true biblical ethnicities. But really, this isn't just about us, all right? As opposed to most of our lessons, this lesson isn't just about the Israelites. Okay, no, this is dealing with everybody. All right, everybody can be in on this one because he's covering cast himself. All right, the Asian nations, the Arabic nations. All right, he's us. All right, most importantly of all, the Israelites. All right, we've been covered and with his veil. So Esau has masked the true biblical ethnicities, all right, and replaced them with his made up ones. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But that's a scripture. One scripture for is what I built this lesson off of. All right, just Isaiah 25:7. I didn't have anything else, nothing else. Did I have? Well, I did, and then I had Revelation 12:9 and Revelation 20 and 7 and 8. But I mean, I got those really after, um, because I was like, okay, let me add at least two more scriptures because I knew I was probably going to ramble a lot and talk a lot. But yeah, so that's what a veil is. Okay, so Esau has slipped a veil over, and enveloped, all right, all the nations, even Israel, on what our true ethnicity is. Okay, now I have Isaiah 25:7, and I just pulled it up in the Bible Gateway where you can get every book that they have, every translation that they have. And one that stood out was the CJB. It says, "On this mountain he will destroy the veil which covers the face of all peoples, the veil enshrouding all the nations." And again, we had that word shroud. All right, to enshroud is to cover in a shroud. All right, so like envelop. All right, if we go and look up etymology online and we just go look up en, all right, en, a word forming element meaning into. All right, so envelop, so to enshroud, so bringing, or so if we get en shroud, it's going to show us shroud and then in. So it means to cover with a shroud. A shroud, what? A garment or article of clothing, dress, something that envelops and conceals. So to something that conceals, to end, to bring into, to so essentially to bring into concealment. All right, to enshroud means to bring into concealment, right? So anyway, that's what a covering cast is. A covering cast is to bring into concealment. Okay, and what has Esau bringed into concealment? All our biblical true ethnicities. That he's an Edomite. That we're Israelites, and Israelites not just as in we're Israelites, but let's get is this recording? This should be recording. Okay, good. Not just that we're just Israelites, but all with respective tribe, for all from our respective tribes. Boom, right here. All right. So right from the top, Judah, so-called Negroes. Benjamin, so-called West Indians. All right, that's where I happen to be from. Is Benjamin. All right. And I might not look like it, but that's where I happen to be from. And then there's a lot of so-called black people that are, they think they're, the so-called Negroes, just Judah, but they're actually Benjamin or Levi, or some even go back to Gad. Again, these aren't just because you're a so-called Negro or a so-called Haitian just doesn't mean you're a Judite or Levite. You could be a Haitian and actually end up being an Ephraimite, all right, which would be what most of the Puerto Ricans are, so-called Puerto Ricans are. But again, we scattered amongst all people. So again, and every tribe has its distinct flavor. Okay, we're all salt of the earth. All right, but some people are Celtic salt, some people are seasoned salt, some people are pink Himalayan salt, some people are Celtic salt. All right, many different flavors of salt. All right, but we're all still salt at the end of the day. So Judah, the so-called Negroes, Benjamin, the so-called West Indians, Levi, the so-called Haitians, they make up the Southern Kingdom, which are now just referred to as black, Negroes, colored. Right, that's what gets taught. That's what our people are called. All right, which really, again, doesn't make much sense. Again, black, colored, Negro, these are all covering casts that cover the nations. Again, am I black, colored, and Negro? Look at me. No, I'm not black, colored, and Negro. But am I a Benjamite? Absolutely. But Benjamites are so-called black colored and Negro, right? Well, see, and that's the fucking issue, man. That's the fucking issue we're getting into. All right, it's the same thing with you have someone who's a Judite, all right, but they look like a Gadite or a Reubenite, all right. They look like a Seminole Indian or perhaps even of the tribe of Manasseh, a Cuban, but they're not though. So they're called all you're a Cuban, but they're not a Cuban though. Or you're Latino, but they're not Latino though. They're not. They would be more akin to being a so-called Negro or so-called black person, but they're not a so-called Negro and they're not so-called black because they don't look like that. But they are Levi. But the other people that are Levi look like so-called Negroes. See the issue? See the formulative issues starting to bubble up and rise and start fucking cracking holes in this veil that Esau has. Well, see, it doesn't make sense. All right, and if it don't fit, they must quit. Right? So, or here's one. If it don't fit, then it must be shit. All right. So then you have the Northern Kingdom. All right, Simeon, the so-called Dominicans, and here's an issue. You got Simeon, the so-called Dominicans. Well, if I go and look up what a Dominican looks like, Dominican, okay, Dominican. Wait a minute. So are these guys African Americans? We're gonna look that up. Are Dominicans African Americans? They're not African Americans. Well, are they African Dominicans then? Right? It says they. So, are they African Dominicans then? No, they're not called African Dominicans. All right. Instead, the correct term would be Afro Dominican, and that refers to a Dominican with black African ancestry. Well, again, our people aren't African, but why aren't these people called African? They're from Africa. Are they not? Wait, they're not from Africa, but why? They look black. They're not black though, but they're Dominican. But why are we? What, hold up. How are there some people that are black and they're called African Americans, but other African Americans are black, but they're not African American at all? They're not from Africa. All right. What about people that are they're black, but they're not from America? Are you African Canadian? Are you African English? Where is this coming from? All right. See all these. If it don't fit, it must be shit. All right. It doesn't add up. All right. And it's because but Dominicans are black. All right, but they're not black people because black people are so-called Negroes, but so-called Negroes just means black. So that would mean Dominicans, but Dominicans aren't regular so-called black because regular so-called black people go back to Judah, and the Dominicans don't go back to Judah. Instead, they go back to Simeon, and they're not Southern Kingdom, they're Northern Kingdom. So wait a minute, this starts to not make much sense at all, does it, when you think about the American concept of ethnicity? Because the American concept of ethnicity, not just the American concept, the whole worldly concept of ethnicity, which it's full of shit. It's full of shit. It has no foundational basis. It breaks into pieces. All right, when you hold a light to it, right? So Simeon, the so-called Dominicans, Zebulon, the so-called Guatemalans, the Panamanians, Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans, Manasseh, the so-called Cubans, Gad, the so-called North American Indians or Native Americans as they're called today, Reuben, Seminole Indians, so-called, Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians, Chileans, Asher, the so-called Colombians, Uruguayans, your Brazilians, and so on and so forth. Issachar, the so-called Mexicans, right? That's Northern Kingdom. This makes up what they would call Native Americans or Latino, all right, and Latino is a bunch of bullshit, all right. That's a bullshit term. Negro is a bullshit term. It's all a bunch of bullshit term. Negro bullshit, Latino bullshit, Native American bullshit. It's all a covering cast. It's all bullshit. Negro bullshit, West Indian bullshit, Haitians bullshit, Dominican bullshit, Guatemalans, Panamanians bullshit, Puerto Rican bullshit, Cubans bullshit, North American Indian bullshit, Seminole Indian bullshit, Argentinian Chileans bullshit, Colombians and Uruguayans bullshit, Mexicans bullshit, Latinos bullshit, all bullshit. Instead, you are Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Zebulon, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar. That's what you are. Not the bullshit. All right, here. All right, not that the tribes, the signs bullshit. I'm talking about this bullshit. These covering casts. This is all that's why it says so-called, because that's so-called. That's bullshit. All right, it's so-called. That's what we're called as, but that's not what we are. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's full of shit. They made it up. All right, to quote Michael Jackson, they made it up. It's a lie. They made it up. All right, it's bullshit. It's a lie. They made it up. All right, and it's been a lie, and it's gonna stay a lie until the Lord comes back and destroys these covering casts, as it mentioned in the scripture. Right. So And again, because he's going to destroy the covering cast, right? Because again, we're not going to be a king. What's up? I'm black, brother. No, you're not. All right. Look at this woman. All right. For example, these are not black women. All right. Well, here, anyway, these are not black women. All right. And they don't even act like black women, mind you. But they have hair like black women. But their skin, is their skin black? No, it's brown. How do I know their skin's brown and it's not black? Because that hat is black. Her shirt is black. Her skin is not black. Her hat is black. Her shirt is black. Her skin is brown. Okay. Get it? Get it? Same thing with white people. White people are the color, would be the color of this guy's shirt if they are truly white people. They're not white people, they're red people. All right. If you want to really be generous, you could say pink people, but pink is derivative of red. I got to get off this page, man. It's Sabbath, and this lady's, shits all the way out, and I just keep on catching a glimpse of it. I'm like, good Lord, man. Um, our women are beautiful, all right? And when I say our women, I mean our women in general, all so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, all right? Some of us look a little fucked up now, but in general, we are beautiful people. You know, but that's the curses, man. That's the curses. All right. Some of our women and our men get fat. All right. We lose hair. We have a bunch of other shit that's health issues and all these different things that go on. But I mean, that's because we're under the curses, man. All can't be well when we're under the curses for being, i.e., punishment for going off. All right. Obviously. So that's what a covering. So I looked up covering cast and they couldn't figure it out. But Isaiah 25:7. Let's read that again, talking about him destroying that. Um, King James Version, it says, and he will I said the King James Version, come on, get with the program. And I clicked it. And he will destroy in this mountain the face, all right, so he will destroy, all right, in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people and the veil that is spread over all nations. So he's going to destroy that covering cast and that nation, he's going to destroy the nations as well. Excuse me, but the spread, all right, come on, the veil, all right, good Lord, get with it. He's going to destroy the covering cast and the veil that's spread over all nations, and not all nations are going to be destroyed. I mean, all nations are going to be destroyed, but not completely. Even Israelites going to have people of it that's destroyed, i.e., the 2/3. But yeah, he's going to destroy that veil, and so you're not going to be in the kingdom thinking you're black. All right, you're going to be a Judite or a Benjamite or a Levite or Simeonite. All right, so a Dominican. That's what you're going to be calling. Hey, look, another black brother. No, like, oh, look, my Judite brother. It's not going to be and really, it's not going to be division like that. So it probably won't even be like that to a term anyway. But so so I have a couple of these. When did the term white people come out? When did the term black people come out? When did the term African American come out? When did the term Latino come out? And when did the term Native American come out? All right. So when did the term white people come about? The term white people as a racial classification emerged in late 17th century. So that's, like I said, 1680s. That's early as shit, man. That's only, let me do some math. Let me use the calculator. So if you got 1776 minus 1776 minus, come on now, 1776 minus 1680. We'll just do right in the middle, 1680. So we'll do 1685. Come on, man. I still messed it. Okay, look. 1776 minus 1685 equals. It's only 91 years before the culmination, or whatever you want to say it, the birth of America. So it's really a pretty new term. So it's really 200 and like a 300-year-old term, but I mean, that's still new. All right. It says the term white people has been a racial classification, or as a racial classification emerged in the 17th century. It was developed in the context of the Atlantic slave trade. Of course it was. Colonial laws in North America legally categorize and separate indentured European laborers from enslaved African laborers. They wanted a term to, separate, as they would say now, the whites from the blacks. Right. They wanted to separate white slaves from black slaves, all right, as you would say, Edomite slaves from Jake slaves, okay? So that's where that came about. And then look, they're all relatively recent. Another 17th century. The term black people Same thing. Identifier during the 17th century. Transatlantic slave trade. European colonizers, slavers used alongside Negro and colored, the legal and social category to distinguish enslaved Africans from European indentured servants. Um, as a community chosen identity. This is the fucking dumbass as you know, black means void of light, white means full of light. That's why the white people told. That's why the so-called white people, they went with white, because white means full of light. Black means, you know, negative light. All right, so they wanted us to be, and light as in illumination, as in truth and wisdom and knowledge and understanding and purity. Okay, they wanted to be known as the pure and us as the impure. Okay, they wanted to liken us to darkness. Okay, our people. So it says, but you know, our people are dumb as shit. All right, they like to you know, take these terms and continue to popularize them. Black was popularized during the 1960s Black Power movement, led by figures like Stokely Carmichael, later Kwame Ture. Activists reclaimed the word to replace the older Eurocentric term Negro. And you replaced, congratulations, you replaced black with black, all right? Because negro, all right, means black in Spanish. Negro, all right, means black. So you said, I don't want to be called black no more. I want to be called black. Yo, man, don't call me Negro no more. Call me black. You know what you just said? Hey, man, don't call me black no more. Call me black. All right. That's like um that's like if a white person said, "Hey, man, I don't like being called Blanco." All right, or Blanquito. All right, just call me white. Well, I don't know if you know this or not. Blanco means white. Blanquito. All right. Uh, Blanquito means little whitey. It's a Spanish colloquial term. It can have a few different meanings. Term of endearment, affectionately for children or family members with fair skin, light skin. There's another. Fair. Fair means good. Okay. Fair means well. Fair means good. So good skin. All right. Now fair skin is black skin. As they would say now, but melanated skin, very dark melanated skin. All right, we got to use these terms so people understand it. Um, it's not black skin; it's melanated skin, brown skin. Brown skin is fair skin. All right. Leprous skin is leprous. All right. It's diseased. It's a curse. All right. It's really a sin at the end of the day. But you know, that's the habit here. We're clean lepers. Clequel, it can also be a class indicator. Look at that. Some Caribbean and Latin regions historically used to describe lighter skin upper class individuals. Blanquito. Um, so yeah, no, don't call me Blanquito. Don't call me Blanco. Call me white. Same thing. All right. If you think that sounds ridiculous, then saying don't call me a Negro, call me black is just as dumb. All right. So it's just as dumb. Just as dumb. Um, and a lot of so-called black people these days, they don't like the term colored. And but I mean, really, it's a better term if you really want to get down to it. Colored is a better term because if you're full of colors, that's how you get white. All right. It's a um let's see. Is is black is black no color? Absence of light. Neutral. Yeah, is white the absence of color? There you go. Look, it's actually the opposite. White is the presence of all colors on the visible light spectrum. I thought that, but I didn't want to say it until I read it. It's the presence of all colors. So if you're colored, all right, well, that means you're white. See how that works? All right. See how that works? So that would mean you're full of light if you're colored, because white is all colors. Okay. Well, now we're getting esoteric and deep. All right. So we're gonna take a step back. That's too deep. But term African American. Term African American has a surprisingly long history. Origins appearing as early as 1782 on the title page of the published Philadelphia Sermon. However, its usage was incredibly rare for over 2 centuries. Um, You can go look at it. It says, throughout the 1920 centuries, terms like African, colored, or Negro were more common. 1960s, civil rights activists, these are the morons, Jesse Jackson, all that. Well, 80s. It says civil rights activists adopted the similar term Afro American to show pride in their ancestral homeland. Well, again, we're not from Africa. Africans are the Hamites, all right, and they're not Israelites, okay? And they don't even look the same as our people, all right? They got crazy fucking teeth. Their lips are differently shaped, all right? They got big, long necks, all right? Their noses, all right? Well, we have the same nose. You don't, all right? If I had to describe it in the best way, okay, so-called Negro noses, if you draw the side of a face, will be more like this, right? Or you might, shave some of that off, right? Just a little bit, kind of like that, all right? But if you look at a Hamitic nose, their nose does one of these. Ugh, well, I can't even begin to draw it because it's crazy. It's like, let me show you. Let me show you. Okay. See the nose? See the nose? All right. No, the bridge is the most important. Side profile. Okay. See the nose? Dip. All right. I don't know if this is the celion, as they call it. Yeah, like the celion. This is the celion right here, or celion, however you want to pronounce it. This is the celion. Okay. And their celion, all right, quite normal. I said day, even though, I go back to that is because I don't have so-called black features. All right, that's what happens to a lot of our, a lot of the, as we would say, speckled birds, as the scriptures say, not as we would say, but as we would say according to the scriptures, speckled birds. That's why we can't judge according to appearance, as the Lord was telling Samuel. But you see the nose, all right, the average, all right, so-called black person has, all right, look at it, all right. We all know these noses, all right. We all know these noses, all right. My wife has one. My family members, certain family members, black family members have them. Um, actually, the cousins they don't actually, but my other cousin does. They got some of them got their dad's nose, but you can see. But if you look at an African person, these are just more black people. I'm talking about African. These are just regular so-called Negroes. These are, more than likely Judites. I'm talking about a so-called African individual. Let's see. Their celion goes like, it's like this. Their nose is like that. It's crazy fucked up looking. I can't even explain it. Let me try to show you. And you don't see it on any of these individuals. Um, and again, some of the you're not going to see it on the West Africans either, because again, this is a good example of it. Um, I need the side profile. Um, or they have noses like this. All right, which is again not like a standard Jake nose, but I'm trying to find an example. That's kind of a good example of it. It's also the way that the nose, for example, not that appearance means anything, but Jake noses will go like this. Okay. But if you look at a Hamite nose, they have very, very thin stellions. Like this. Right? And this part's usually dented in. Okay. Trying to find an example. A lot of these people are just they have a lot of Jake features. When you see a really, really Hamitic looking there you go. That's a good example, but unfortunately it's Unfortunately, it's very low res. Um, that's the best example I could give you, right? But and again, this is more Hamitic feature. But if you go and look at a regular Jake, they're gonna have similar features. And again, but Jake again, they were over there heavily in West Africa, all right, and of course, and not just in West Africa most prominently, but Africa in general. They weren't from there, but they did. They were over there. All right, all of us were over there. All right, to an extent. But anyway, Afro American, African American, Latino. How about Latino? It says the word Latino is a loan word shortened from the Spanish Latino Americano. All right. It says there's another word that's actually what's that term? It's Gabriel Iglesias has a tequila named after it. Um, Poco. All right, Poco. Um, if you look up Poco, it's a slur. All right, for Mexican Americans that Mexicans use from Mexico because they basically say, "Oh, you've been Americanized. You ain't one of us." Right? Um, Poco or polka, all right, slang term that used to describe Mexican Americans of Mexican descent. It carries a derogatory term, often used by Mexican nationalists to describe someone who's lost touch with their Mexican roots, speaks broken Spanish, or has become too Americanized. All right, it comes from the word poco, which means discolored, faded, or rotten fruit. So there you go, showing you that Babylonian influences, even though it's Mexico had a lot of Babylonian influence, is not something that people like. But anyway, that's another term, poco. It says the term was popularized. I just watched a video on that today. That he was on a short talking about that. So call all you Halbash Meow Shy for that information, or else I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. It says the term was popularized by the mid 19th century in California newspapers, but was officially adopted in the U.S. Consensus in 1997 to encompass people of Latin American descent. So look at that, only 1997. That's only, almost 30 years old, right? What about Native American? Native American is a collective name for the indigenous peoples of the U.S., gained prominence in 1960s. Popularized it to replace American Indian, a misnomer tracing back to Christopher Columbus. So there you go, man. See, all and all and all and all and all. All right, but anyway, this is what the Lord's gonna come back. All right, and He's gonna it was mentioned and destroying that veil, that covering cast. Well, He's gonna get rid of Esau, Edom that started it. All right. Um. Well, if you really want to get rid of them, as in bring them down and out of power and into slavery. All right, and also a good number of them are going to be destroyed. But of course, they got to keep some of them alive to have the slaves, right? Servants and handmaids, as it says in the scripture. If you don't like that, well, they are going to be servants and handmaids. Servants and handmaids. And I'll get one more. Heathen for thine inheritance. And I just saw another scripture. Book of the law. That one's going to come into play in just a minute. But this is Psalms 2 and 8, or Psalm 2 and 8. It says, "Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession." So the Lord's going to give us heathens as a possession. All right. Furthermore, on what that means, it says Isaiah 4 and 1 through 2. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob," that's so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, "and will yet choose Israel," again, same thing, "and set them in their own land. And the strangers," all right, the strangers, now this is the important part, the strangers is dealing with the heathens, okay? Now, you can prove this by going, again, into the interlinear. You go and look up the word for stranger. It's going to go back to the word gare, all right, which comes from the word gore, all right, but it means not in this state, but in this state, gare.
Strong's H 1616. Gar.
Right, gar.
Gar.
Foreigners
And the
in
form
Israel.
just below that, Gair.
Okay.
Gair.
So foreigners in Israel. So if you're a foreigner of Israel, if you were a foreigner and you were in Israel, what were you called? Heathens. Who are heathens in the Bible? Anyone who is not a part of the Jew, and they're getting it wrong. Anyone who is not Israelite, all right. Anyone who is not an Israelite, all right. The term goyim, it's really goyim, all right. Goyim, nations or foreigners, all right. There you go, foreigners. Look, foreigners in Israel. So these are the goyim, all right, the non-Israelites. Again, they like to say, again, the chat's going to go off on it because they're going to say, oh, it's the anybody who's not a follower of the Lord. No, well, the only people that can really truly follow the Lord are Israelites. And that's another thing that Christians don't understand. I've done several lessons on it. Everyone's done several lessons on it that's in this truth, dealing with these individuals that think that the um, what's the word I'm looking for? The Gentiles is only referring to non-Israelite individuals. No, some of those Gentiles were Israelites, but they were just scattered abroad and they lost touch with their Israelite identity. All right, and they were again going back to see. There's those covering casts. They were not. That was that even back then. I mean, the term Roman. All right, that can almost be like a covering cast, an early version of it, because again, um, well, back then they would have known though. They would have said, "Oh, he's a Roman," but some people would have lost touch of their heritage and would have been given into the covering cast. And be like, "Oh, I'm Roman." Well, you're not Roman. What are you really? Because the Romans, they were calling themselves Romans again, Esau, but really at the end of the day, they were Edomites. Okay, so are you an Edomite? Well, I don't know. If the Romans are Edomites, it must be an Edomite. Well, no. If you look at your father's line, all right, he was actually a Benjamite. So you're actually Benjamite. All right. Oh, you know. Um, but they wouldn't know that again because they've been, they've lost touch with reality. All right, but a foreigner, all right, is goyim, all right, is a heathen, all right, not the Lord's people. So anyone who's not a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, most importantly, of the 12 tribes of Israel is what we're talking about, because you're gonna have some people that look like so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but really they're not of the house of Israel. So most importantly, of the house of Israel. Okay, it's not about skin color; it's about who you go back to. All right, you could be hell, you could be white as a sheet of paper, right? Not that people do that, unless you got anemia or some shit. But you could be white as a piece of paper. You could still go back to Benjamin. You could still go back to um Judah. You could go back to another nation that's not Israelite. You could be white looking. You could go back to Ammon, which is so-called Asian. All right. Do you look like a little old Asian man shuffling around? No, but you could be. All right, you could be through that lineage. And see, people used to keep track of their lineage. All right, their biblical lineage. All right, and then even after that, people used to keep scrapbooks. All right, for years, about their father and who they did and what they were, and he was a smith and all that. People don't keep that information anymore. I mean, people don't even take film photos anymore. They take digital photos that don't even they're not even they're non-tangible items. All right, they're not even, you can't even hold them or anything. You can go and get them printed, but it's still like a digital item. Like everything used to be analog. All right, everything used to be tangible. All right, that's my little mini rant on tangible objects. I'm a big fan of tangible objects. All right, I collect tangible objects. I collect physical video games. I collect physical VHSs. All right, because why? Because I like a tangible item. Okay, an item that nobody but the Lord can take away from me. All right. And what I mean by that is that yes, somebody could break into my house and take it. Well, that would be the Lord allowing someone to come and do so. But it's not like with Esau, how they have everything like right now, newspapers, all right, things like that. You can't take a newspaper away from me unless you come and physically slaughter me or rip it out of my hands or something like that. You can't remove that information. I could preserve that. I could seal it. I could do something with it, and I could seal that for years upon years to have that information. If you printed it, you can't. You've done fucked up. It's there to print forever. Right, but now all the news is digital. Why? Because they can change it in a matter of seconds. All right, we talked about this a couple last week or even maybe earlier this week, dealing with the whole archive.org situation, the Wayback Machine, how a bunch of these news websites don't want them to have access to it. Why? Because they want to be able to change information on a dime, and they don't want there to be any proof that they changed it. All right, so again, this is why you got to start screenshotting everybody on a Windows 10 or 11 PC. Most people are on 11 now, but if you have 10, it's the same thing. What you can do is you can go and you can look up. I have mine pinned, but you'll just type snip. All right. And it's going to be snipping tool. It's going to be app. You click this here and you go new. All right. And then what you can do is I like to do full screen. Boom. And then look, that is a whole picture now that that I have. All right. So, and you can just, as soon as you do this, you can go to open file. Really, you can X that out of it, but it's gonna, if you don't know where it's saved, usually it's gonna be in screenshots in your photos. You go and open that, and that's gonna be in your screenshots. All right. I got other important stuff in there, so I'm not gonna open that. I got like official, documents and stuff in there right now, screenshots of. So I'm not gonna go in there and show it. It's got my legal name and stuff on it, but that's what you would do essentially, right? But yeah, do that. Same thing with the phone. All right, if you got an iPhone, you click the power button and the down volume key, and boom, screenshot. All right, boom, screenshot. I think it's the same on Android as well. Boom, screenshot, screenshot it, screenshot it, screenshot it, and back it up if you can. Put it on Google Drive. Put it on a physical hard drive. If that's what you need to do. All right, because that information will just go away because Esau likes to hide information. Um, and everything's worked out perfectly for him now. But anyway, yeah, physical stuff. All right, physical, tangible things are going away. But anyway, and Esau, getting back to the point, Esau is one of the many nations that are going to be in captivity. All right, we talked what strangers means. Really means it doesn't go back to that, but another version of stranger would be goyim. All right, or as you hear the Jewish people say today, goy. Right, they think we're goy, but they're really the goyim. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the people, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord," that's Israel, "for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors." And going back to the other scripture, he who leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, right? So these people that led into captivity are going to go into captivity, and who they oppressed us and whose captives we were to them, they're going to be captives to us. All right, so there you go. And then finally, we got that one, and then showing you that these individuals, going back into that well, read Revelation 12 and 9 first. Well, actually, we'll get um we'll get Revelation 20 and 7 through 8. There's more to it than this. But it says, it's verse 7, "And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison." All right, that's when he was loosed from the rule of Jacob, and he went forth, and then what did he do? "And shall go out to deceive the nations." He's been doing this for a long time, but ultimately what's going to happen? Which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And that's Russia. All right, and there's going to be a great battle primarily with Russia and America, and that's going to be World War III. There's going to be other nations involved, but it's primarily going to be those two nations, right? Already 2 hours and 12 minutes. Got a lot of stuff. It's going to be a long one, man. So Revelation 12 and well, let me read this one first. So that deceiving the nations, well, part of that, what he did was, well, first Maccabees 3 and 48, "And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their image." So the heathen had sought to paint their image as the likeness of, Yahushai, as they say, Jesus, and God, really Yahweh, and all the biblical prophets, and everything related to good, they wanted to be the face of. And that's when the iconoclasm, the Crusades, and all these different things took place. And I mean, the Crusades on the outside, that's cool history, all right. And I mean, they looked really fucking cool, all right. As someone who's into medieval history, I mean, if you look at a Crusader, all right, they looked fucking awesome, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, and did they really look like this though? Did they really look like this, or is this Esau trying to make himself depicted as a badass because this shit looks cool. I'm not gonna lie, it looks really fucking awesome. All right, it's got the awesome helmet, maybe not the cross and stuff like that, but I mean, it's just a fucking cool outfit, man. It's got the cape and everything. I'll give credit where credit is due. All right, if Esau really was a man able to put this outfit together, hey, props, man. It's a cool fucking outfit. All right, but what you did under that outfit was wicked as shit. All right, but if you see these old depictions, they don't look anything like that. So where did they look like that? Okay, so you do have them in the back. So maybe they did look like that. Maybe they did look like that. Can we believe them though? Can we believe them though? Because they've repainted over everything. Look at this. This is more depictions of the Crusader. All right, and they don't look like that at all. I mean, armor. I like armor in general, so I'm biased. I think armor in general is cool. I don't think this looks as cool as this looks. All right, this looks fucking awesome. You got the heavy armor and stuff like that, and you don't even need the cross. Just remove that, remove the cross from off the helmet, and it would still look cool because armor is cool. Armor is cool. All right, I like armor. Armor's badass. And really, the one of the first depictions of a crusader type individual was Knights of the Nine. All right, referring to the Nine Divines, which is an expansion pack for the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, my favorite game of all time. Um, Best Elder Scrolls game. Skyrim is fucking absolutely magnificent as well, as is Morrowind. Those three are heavy hitters. Daggerfall is really fucking good too. Um, but Knights of the Nine, this guy's, let's be honest, if you look at his gear and how he is, and Knights of the Nine, all right, the Nine is the Nine Divines. You know, they're fighting on behalf of the gods in the game. So, I mean, come on, let's be honest. They're Crusaders, right? They're pretty much Crusaders. Even the helmet is a Crusader helmet. So, of course, I mean, you know, that's where I was introduced to that type of style outfit. And you see this type of armor in a lot of medieval stuff, even if it's not just Crusader, but I guess now I got the Saxon song Crusader stuck in my head, and I'm trying not to sing it because it's Sabbath. But a good heavy metal song. Um, but anyway, enough rambling. I've rambled long enough. I was gonna do a lesson on that. We'll close that out. But anyway, Revelation 12 and 9. Last scripture for the lesson. Then we're gonna close out because I have one on far enough. It's almost 4 a.m. and I started this at 2 a.m. So it says Revelation 12 and 9. It says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, Esau, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So of course his angels are, you know, his armies and stuff like that. Not to be compared to the Lord's angels and his armies, because ultimately the Lord's angels and his armies are going to be victorious. All right, the Lord, his angels, and you know his army, the angels are going to be victorious. Esau is not. That's a whole nother thing we can get into with Babylon's destruction. That's a topic for another day. So that's what we're gonna close out with. Lord, what was edifying. Slack you for the rambleness. There was like, I don't even know how many lessons within this lesson, as the Apostle of the Heart says, lessons within lessons. So, hopefully there was a method to the madness. All right, in the rambliness, there was a lot of edification. Probably a couple days worth of lessons here if you're watching 30 minutes, or you know, I probably wouldn't recommend anything less than 30 minutes. You know, anyway, that's between you and the Most High. But however many lessons you do, but just remember, as I like to say, an average movie is an hour and a half to 2 hours, and you would have no problem sitting and watching a movie. So why should you have a problem doing lessons, right? Or you know, 2 hours of just not necessarily just lessons. 2 hours of lessons that can go by very fast. I usually try to do 2 hours at least per day of biblical related content, of stuff directly just for the Lord. Okay, and that means searching for Bible topics, putting scriptures together, for you know, formulating lessons, watching lessons, and all those different things, right? Um, and then half the time I end up going over to 3 hours because I'll watch 2 hours worth of a lesson, and then I'll end up making an hour of a lesson, so it'll end up being 3 hours. All right, so which is a pretty good amount. I mean, again, at the end of the day, the best thing would be to do nothing but just serve the Lord constantly. But unfortunately, in the flesh, it can be a little bit difficult. Your mind starts to wander. You get um uh for some individuals, it's just not going to be possible. All right, you can pray and the Lord can help you focus more. But it's one of those things. I was told this by a math professor when I was being tutored for math. He said, if you come into a situation and you feel at some point that your brain has been filled up with information. We get that with like lessons a lot. You have to take a step. He says it's instead of continuing the the lesson. All right, and I'm talking about the math lesson. Instead of continuing the lesson, all right, we can close out for the day. All right, and you can think about what we've learned and gather it that way. He says because once your brain gets that capacity of where it feels like it's had enough, it's going to forget everything else that you put into it. And mind you, the biggest thing about this truth is retaining information. So if you're not retaining the information, then find a better way to study. All right. If you have to watch, 30 minutes and then you retain that information, stop, go and do something else, for a couple hours. Throw a load of laundry in, grab yourself something to eat, you know, um, watch a bit of the game or something and then come back to it and then, do an hour and then come back and do a 30. You have to break it up. If you have to break it up, break it up. That's fine. But just make sure our first and foremost goal is to serve Yahweh Shemi Yahushua. And that should be the first thing that we do in the day, if possible. All right. Sometimes, on Sabbath, sometimes I do it a little bit differently on Sabbath. Sometimes I'll, do whatever I was going to do. And then when Sabbath hits, I'll do it. And again, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. It's one of those things where if I feel like I'm going to be sidetracked or watch a show or something like that, um, ideally I should just make the lesson. But there are some times I did that today, and that's why we're here late. Where you'll do something like that and make sure if you have to shop. Sometimes it's like it's better to do that than have to do that on Sabbath. Shop, go around, do whatever. Whatever it is you need. And then, when Sabbath hits, make the lessons. However, again, I'm not going to tell you to do that because, again, at the end of the day, I will tell you that I do that from time to time. Um, I don't know if that's necessarily right. I do feel guilty sometimes when I do it. A lot of the time when I do it, but Sabbath is like the only time that I really even make that exception. All right. Um, any other day, that's lessons before you do anything, right? Lessons before you do anything. Before you watch TV, before you play video games on Sabbath. Again, sometimes I do. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just admitting it. Sometimes, I'll watch some TV or play a game or something like before Sabbath, and then once Sabbath hit, then I'll get all my lessons done and stuff like that. So I'm not tempted to be like, oh, my time. Demons will get on you and stuff like that, and the flesh, right? We do battle the flesh daily. Um, and you don't want to be the one thing I don't want is to be in Sabbath thinking about, oh, the game I'm playing, or the movie or that movie. I could have finished that movie. So sometimes I'll just watch the movie, finish the movie, play the game or whatever, get to a point where I can stop and be like, okay, I'm done with it for now. And then I won't have that thought during Sabbath, like, oh, when you're going to, because you don't want to be in Sabbath thinking about, it sounds like I'm making an excuse. I'm just giving you an example, but you don't want to be, that's another thing that I really don't like, being in Sabbath and your mind's constantly wandering out of the Sabbath mindset. It's going, oh, that video game you were watching, that video game you're playing, oh, that show you were watching, you still have to finish that show. So I don't like to do that. So either what I'll do is I'll either watch a show or play a video game sometimes before Sabbath hits to get that out. If ideally have enough time to do my lessons and then do that, but sometimes, like I said, I'll just end up doing the lessons after. But you try to get that type of stuff out of the way because you don't want that pulling you out of that Sabbath mindset. All right. Anyway, just a little rambling. That's where we're going to close out. So, Lord, what was edifying? Again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Shalom, you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until the next one, Lord willing. Shalom.